Hello and welcome to another live stream with the Canadian Schoolhouse. I'm Steph Morrison and I am here with a guest, as we often like to do, that is going to share about homeschooling during high school. So whether you've got kids that are going into high school, currently high schooling, maybe you're even thinking about taking your kids out of school and they happen to be in high school. Anyway, you're going to be so informed and get lots of good inspiration and encouragement from Lisa Hamoline. So welcome, Lisa.
Thanks, Steph. Good to be here today. This is exciting because we've been talking about this for a while. So exciting to be here. Thank you for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. So let's start off with you just sharing a little bit about your background in the homeschooling education and then tell us what Adventum is all about.
Sure. So my background is Adventum was created with myself and my partner, Dawn Epps. So I want to put a shout out to Dawn because she is, although she's not here today, she is heavily behind the scenes helping and supporting me. So I can't do what I do without my partner. And so my background is, well, both of us, myself and Dawn, we both have our BEds. And I myself, in addition to having my BEd, am Montessori trained and certified. And then Dawn has her postgraduate in education of exceptional children. So yeah. So I would say that we've both had really different working experiences and working lives. But one thing that we have in common is that we have never really fit the traditional mold, even though education-wise, we've had a lot of experience in the traditional realm. So we've both had our children in public school. We've both had our children in online school, and we've both homeschooled our children. And it was through both of us being teachers for an online school that we really got into the world of homeschooling and started to meet a lot of families that were homeschooling and kind of see what that world was about. And then ultimately, we both ended up homeschooling our children. And what I would say my biggest takeaway was in watching the families and helping the families that I worked with to homeschool, and then ultimately myself ending up homeschooling my kids, is I watched these families who allowed their children to have an educational experience that just fit them. And I was able to watch these children not only grow, but really blossom. And some of these families are families that did have a traditional experience and it didn't go well. And the kids had really, really poor self-esteem and they didn't think great things of themselves. They didn't think they were good at school. So to watch them not only grow, but to then blossom and to use language like, actually, I am smart. Just so powerful. So powerful. So our goal when we both stepped away from teaching our goal with creating Adventum was to really help families to create an educational experience that's tailored to the student. So with Adventum, that's exactly what we do. And we do that we offer free consultations. We do have lessons for purchase on our website, and we do individual education planning for families, taking into account the academic strengths and the learning style of the child, but also the needs of the family as a whole. So that's what Adventum is here to do, and that's what we provide.
Well, that's great. So you kind of, I think you highlighted the biggest thing about the advantage of homeschooling is that customized education, because actually no matter what your learning style, so some learning styles fit a little bit better in that mass, institutional education setting. And I was certainly one of them. The way I thought worked well for, sit down, show me the lesson, and then, I learn it, right? Then
Yeah.
I do it.
Yeah.
But even for that kind of learning style, it's like if you can get that customized, right, individualized education that
Yeah.
that just can't be done in that mass education system, right? Not every child can be given as much as even are those individual education plans, right? They still can't
Yeah.
be given that just education that fits them. So
Exactly.
I mean, it's one of those biggest advantages of homeschooling that I love just as a mom, and that I just um share as much as I can, because I don't think some parents really get that, how even if their kids are doing okay in school, or that they're doing really good and they're excelling, like, just think about how much better they could be once they've really got a for one, maybe a curriculum that even challenges them more than what they're able to get in a public school system, or certain courses. And especially as we get to high school, which is really what we want to focus on with this topic, although I know you cover all the ages in what you do with
Right.
Adventum. But
Yeah.
I thought it would be great to have you on just to talk about uh, the high school level, because it's an area where parents think that, so even traditional, like homeschooled all the way through elementary, and it's just a common thing in the homeschooling world that a certain percentage, probably not the majority, but a certain high percentage will just, that's their plan, to put their kids in high school because they
Right.
want to give them whatever that high school might have. I mean, you've got labs there, you've got like shop classes, you've got, and just a lot of different electives, a lot of different extracurricular stuff. So I totally see the draw,
Yeah.
but I think there's still a really big draw. Like, we can, as parents, we can still set up a really customized education better than they can get in school. And I think it just
Yeah.
takes, for parents that feel like they just can't do that, I think it would be so wise to meet with somebody like yourself that can guide them in that way and say, well, this is the kind of stuff that you can do, because it's sometimes just not knowing what to do. And just to get that direction and that confidence of, yeah, you're right, I can do a really customized education even for these higher grades, where as parents, definitely for me, and I've got a 15-year-old, so
Yeah.
I've hit that level. um there's a lot he's learning that I don't really know, so I'm learning along with him for some of the stuff, and then other stuff I'm just I've got him, okay, I'm not going to bother learning. Like, math is a big thing. I'm not going to bother learning intense geometry, right? And actually, math was one of the things I was really good at in school, I don't know, 25 years ago or so. Like, it
Yeah.
was a really good subject for me. But I'm just not, I don't, I don't really want to learn that along with him so that I can teach him as he's getting through that. But there are so many courses, and I think I'm probably going to go with something online, because I'm changing up what we're doing for math for him, because he's hit a level where it's just, I can't figure this stuff out even when I have a lesson.
Right.
So share a little bit more about that, maybe just the advantages of a homeschooling as far as curriculum goes, and if you can try to, which there's tons of curriculum out there, but if you can try to cover how all those different curriculums are, I don't know, are different. That sounds silly. That sounds vague. I'm going to let you run with that, though. Like, just at that high school level, the availability of different options available.
So, I mean, do you want to do the advantages and then the availability? Is that what you want to do?
Sure. Yeah, let's go that way.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think you covered some of the advantages, and I think that it's easy for us to understand as people anybody who doesn't even homeschool can understand some of these advantages of homeschooling,
Mhm.
like flexibility. The student gets to do the work when works best for them. Regular, in traditional school, they go to school from 9 until 3:30. Well, I can tell you, as a homeschool parent, kids are not on from 9 until 3:30 every day. That is not how it works being in traditional school, and that's not how it works being in homeschool. So to be able to choose the time that works best for the student to actually be in a space of ready to learn and take information in, super, super important. And You get to do that with homeschooling. Having the freedom, which is a big deal in high school, to spend more time on the areas that are of interest to you and less time on the areas that aren't of interest to you. Really big deal. And then, you know, the way that the landscape in education has been changing over, well, I would say for sure over the past 20 years, in that students and parents don't necessarily feel as safe as they used to. So for a multitude of different reasons. So to be able to be in an environment that is relaxed, stress-free, and away from peer pressure is huge. Yeah. And then allowing students to be able to take control of their own learning so that they can learn to become self-directed learners, so that they can learn time management, and so that they can honestly learn how to learn. Because if students learn how to learn, it doesn't matter if they retain the information right here, right now, or not. What matters is when they need to learn, that they know how to learn, that they know how to get the information, that they know how to then take in the information in the way that's best for them. And I have found that going through the traditional route, and I will say myself, I went through traditional school, but I wouldn't call it a success story for me. I didn't like it. It was very hard. It caused me to create habits that maybe didn't serve me. And it's caused me to question myself a lot in my adult life. And that is directly, I believe, from my traditional schooling experience. And going through traditional school and not having the best time. And I will just preface by saying I didn't have a hard time in school socially. So my hard time had nothing to do with being bullied. It had nothing to do with not it being in an unsafe space or anything like that. It had everything to do with the content and the way that the content was delivered. And that was really, really difficult for me. I still graduated. I still got a university degree, but it took a lot of time and energy. And I think I could have done so much better if I had been able to allocate my time and energy in a way that was more productive and efficient for me. And that's what we are seeing, Adventum is seeing. And I have to say that my background is elementary. So we are now with Adventum, we do talk to a lot of high school families, which I hadn't had the opportunity to do much before. I did it as an online teacher, as an online principal to an online school. I dealt with high school families. But now that we're part of Adventum, or now that we are doing Adventum, we do talk to a lot of high school families. And what we're seeing is a lot of families who their kids don't necessarily struggle because they have a learning disability, let's say. And there are a lot of kids out there that have a learning disability, or that that have an anxiety disorder, or those sorts of things. And we definitely see that. But we also see families who have children that don't have those issues, but they struggle so hard to meet the requirements in order to graduate. And what I see is that if they continue on that path, they continue on the path of struggling, one of two things is going to happen for them. They are either going to not graduate, or they're going to graduate and it's going to be with the bare minimum marks. And that's going to be problematic for them to get into post-secondary anyways. So just to grit their teeth and to get through, or for the students to basically bootstrap, their whole way through high school, which is the method that I used, because there was no other option, or at least I didn't know that there was another option. And so I don't think bootstrapping it is the way to become the most successful adult, that you can be in order to have a successful, productive life later on. So homeschooling really does offer students the opportunity to take their learning into their own hands so that they can learn in a way that suits them.
Mhm.
And we are by no means familiar with every single curricular option that is available out there, especially, as it goes today. There are new options every day. The options for education for kids in elementary and kids in high school, there are so many more options than families are even aware of. And there's more and more options every day, as I said. So when we do a consultation with a family, we really, really want to figure out what is what does this family want? What is their lifestyle? What are their beliefs? And what is the learning style of the children? But also, not just the learning style of the children, it's also really important to know the primary people that are going to be involved in helping the student. Um, what works best for those people as well, whether it's the parents,
Mhm.
sometimes it's grandparents, that are helping with the homeschool program. But what do those people need? And I would also say that there is a little bit of a misconception, I've definitely noticed with elementary, with people who start homeschooling in elementary, people that have had their children in traditional school. Um, Traditional school is often hands off for the parents. And so, for those parents that recognize that their kids need more and they decide that they're going to homeschool them, often, and this is not 100%, but often families think that their kids get to a magical age, and that age is usually high school. And then all of a sudden, they don't need to be involved in their kids' education anymore. And I'm not going to say that that's actually true for traditional school, although that's the way that it often goes. The parents
Mhm.
become hands off. I'm not going to say that that's true, and that's what needs to happen for kids. That may work for some kids, but they're still learning. They don't have
Mhm.
their time management under wraps yet. They don't. They can't do a bunch of juggling necessarily, and they shouldn't have to do a bunch of juggling all on their own yet in high school. They're not adults. This is the time for them to learn. So
Yeah.
if you are homeschooling in high school, when we do a consultation, or if you're interested in it, when we do a consultation with these families in Adventum, we really, really want to alert the parents or make it known to the parents what, and this is not 100%, everybody is different, but one of the things that most kids are going to need in high school is a hands-on person that is going to help them to guide that program, to keep them on track, to
Mhm.
hold them accountable. As adults, we have so many things that exist to help keep us accountable. Weight Watchers, for example. If I want to go lose weight, I'm going to figure out how I can hold myself accountable. And the best way to do that is probably through an organization that's going to help me stay accountable, or through some buddy system or whatever it is. So for me, with my children, I think that it's my job to help them to stay accountable and to give them the things that they need in order to stay accountable. And that means that we need to talk about it. We need to be aware of what I need. We need to be aware of what my kids need. And we need to be aware of our strengths. We need to be aware of our weaknesses. And we need to be aware of what it is that the child, the high school student or elementary student, is working to develop skill
Mhm.
in. And so when we do that, we have a consult with the families, and we get clear on their lifestyle, we get clear on their beliefs, we get clear on the learning style. And you see on the screen there a couple of things with lifestyle and beliefs. So, do you want secular or non secular? Do you want your child to focus on specific subject areas? Do you want a Canadian based program? And where are you from? We might be doing consults with people that are in the States, and a Canadian based program is it doesn't matter to them. We just put that in there because we are in Canada. learning style wise, what is your child's learning style? Do you know it? Do they know it? Do you know your own learning style? And so we go through these things and we ask the parents these questions. And with the students that are in high school that are old enough, they're part of that consult as well. And we ask them that as well.
Mm.
And then based on those answers, we can then recommend different types of curriculum that would possibly work for them. And we give the parents the information based on what it is that they have given us, the information that they have given us. And then we talk to them about that, and we allow them to ask questions. We allow them to do their own research, and we help guide them through that whole process. What I can tell you, high school curriculum choice wise, is that there are options that, and you can see in the notes there, secular versus non-secular. There are options. There are Montessori options. There are outdoor ed options. There are athletic options. There are arts options. There are so many options for your children to take advantage of, regardless of what it is that their interests are or their skill levels or their skills are. It's really about figuring out what it is that you as a family and what it is that your student is interested in. And then we take it from there.
And the electives part that's available is like that's just focused on homeschooling community, homeschoolers, right? What people are creating for curriculum for just everything outside of those, core, reading, writing, arithmetic kind of courses, is vast. Like it's overwhelming. It's overwhelming with the core stuff as well. But what math program? And I've gone through that really, even the whole, probably the last 6 months have been really about like just finding the right fit for math for my 15-year-old. And I think I've identified that, and we're going to start. We actually do homeschool all year long. We don't really take a break. Although my teenager's in camp, has been for most of the summer, so it'll be nice to have him back for a little bit again. But he'll nice. So we'll get a new math program to start, and we kind of came upon that, right? There was kind of the math program we were doing, the math course we were doing. Just kind of came to a point of, even though it was a little bit difficult, some of the concepts before that, like for him, but then for me to be able to, okay, well, this is, a hands-on teaching. Now it's just to the point where, like, unless I really, and I don't have a lot of time to devote to, and I'm not sure if you put that as one of your points, but I'm sure that's something you look at, like how much hands-on time do you have as a parent to be able to devote to the to the teaching part. I kind of mostly say, like, I actually don't do that much teaching. As far as the subjects go, I get the curriculum that teaches them, and I'm there then for guidance, and I'm there for helping them through, more difficult concepts than that. I don't actually really teach. I just find the curriculum that aligns well. So, we had something that seemed to work well for a little bit, and then we discovered partway, probably like halfway through, the course, that this is probably not that great. We actually went back and just got some foundational geometry knowledge, because I thought maybe he was just missing a few basic, concepts from that. So that's kind of what he's been doing the last, 2 or 3 months. And then we're going to start in with another program, math program. And I think it's going to work a lot better. And I don't think I would have been able to determine that, say, this math program is what's going to work unless we actually had those difficulties. So I thought it just mentioned that for people that might be going through that, whether you're going through that now or just to anticipate that a curriculum that you start with does not have to be the curriculum you keep even throughout 1 year. You don't want to change a lot, because that might be an indication of, it's not everything aligns perfectly, but there's nothing wrong with changing a chorus partway through a kind of a level or a grade, right? Or changing to a different curriculum for the next year. It's like, oh, we got through that, but let's go to something else. And I think it's even more important, and a lot of the points that you brought up, I think makes that obvious, but I think it's even more important as we're preparing our kids for adulthood, which is kind of what we're doing in these teenage years, that we're really open to looking at all the alternatives that are available, and not just thinking, well, yeah, my friend is using this with her kids and they're all doing great and thriving on it. And sometimes that comparison comparison trap, as I've taken that
Yes.
from somebody else, like, don't get caught in that comparison trap of what somebody else is doing and is working well for them. And
Yes.
and which is why it's almost good to have an individualized plan as a parent, right? You can't really take great to hear advice though. Great. We like to talk as homeschoolers and share what's working and what's not.
Yes.
And but that doesn't mean, and you can probably speak to that in your experience with families, that certainly doesn't mean that's gonna work or work for somebody else, or somebody else's situation is gonna work for you or your kids.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So there's three things that you that you touched on that I think are super, super important to highlight, from where I'm coming from. And I will back you and support you. So the first thing is changing curriculum. And that is like, if it is not working, don't do it. Like if you, and it doesn't mean that it's going, that if even if it did work, it doesn't mean that it's going to work forever. Our kids are not the same human beings year to year. They're
Mhm.
not the same human beings mid-year as they were when they started at the beginning of the year. And the way that the traditional school system works, and the way that the society that we live in works in general, is that you commit and you stick, at least for a period of time. And so for us, that period of time is a school year. How many families do you hear, or parents do you hear say, well, yeah, you can do that extracurricular activity, but if I sign you up, you're going to do it for the full year, which I don't have any particular, I don't have any particular feelings about extracurricular one way or another. Like if you are a family that you're going to commit to the extracurricular for that 1 year, because at the end of the day, that's extracurricular. And how are you going to know if you like it until you've gone through and learned some things about it? That does make sense to me. However, if this is causing the child deep pain for whatever reason, emotional pain, then I have no problem pulling a kid out of extracurriculars mid-year. But we transfer that thought process over to curriculum. And we go, well, this was the curriculum that we chose for this year, so we're just going to push through to the end of the year. And sometimes families find out very quickly it's not working, and they continue on for the remainder of the year. And we always like to tell families, you don't have to do that. And I understand that you probably paid money for it. But at the end of the day, how is that helping you to make that money back, or helping your child to be in a position to be an adult that makes their own money if they're struggling through something that just isn't working? So helping them to develop skill in an area that is not at all necessary for them, probably not the best use of time and energy. So change it up if it's not working. And it doesn't mean that you change it up and all of a sudden whatever you choose does work. You're going to like some things about the new curriculum and not other. It's a constant influx, kind of in motion type of thing, in my opinion, as a homeschooler, and in my opinion as an educator. And when I'm in the classroom teaching, I want to be able to provide that for my students as well. Unfortunately, if I am a traditional teacher, I am bound by the curriculum. And so I have to find things within the curriculum, which, to be honest, ends up as a teacher making my job harder to be able to provide an experience to each one of my students that really takes into account what they need as a learner and as a human being. And that's one of the reasons why I'm not a traditional school teacher anymore, because I see a flaw in that. I see that as a teacher, I can't do that in the way that the system is set up, because the system is set up to provide mass education to the masses.
Mhm.
So when you are removed from that and you are homeschooling, you don't need to do that. You don't need to play by that rule. You don't even need to follow curriculum if you don't want. And then the other thing is that that along with that, I feel like most of us went through the traditional school system. There are families that I meet and they themselves were homeschooled and now they homeschool their kids, but that's not usual. Usually I'm meeting with families who were in the traditional system, went through the whole system themselves, and then have had their kids in the system and now they're dissatisfied with it. So that would be the majority of people. And that's just a numbers. The majority of people haven't been homeschooled at our age. And so they know that they want something different, but we are all so ingrained in this traditional system, even if we are removed from it. Myself as a teacher who always went against the grain and was always the Montessori teacher at heart, who was always asked the students, well, do you feel like you're done with that piece of work, or do you feel like you could do more? And, those sorts of things, and guiding them to, what are you going to start with today? All of those things. And letting the kids drive their education as best as I could within that system. Even myself realizing how ingrained I am. It is not in me to do work outside of the 9 to schoolwork, outside of the 9 to 3:30, because that's how I was molded. And so I accidentally, and I didn't really realize I was doing it as I was schooling my own kids, but I did accidentally ingrain that 9 to 3:30 in them as well. And I think for the most part, their peak learning times would be 9 to 3:30. I don't seem to have any night owls in this house that are studying late into the evening and then foregoing their studying during the day. Everybody's just adopted that kind of day. But that would be an example of, I'm stuck. And I have a really hard time getting out of that because I've been ingrained in that for my whole life. And the way that we work in society also kind of follows that. You work a little bit longer, most people till 5 o'clock, but still it's during those hours. So those are two things that I would say to families to keep in mind, that to just change curriculum when you need. Try not to feel guilt over that. If it's not working for you, it's not working for your child, most likely. And if it's not working for your child, it is not working for you. And to be okay with trying something new. And also keeping in mind what the original goal was the original goal to learn geometry perfectly in its fullest from start to finish, so that you can, I don't know, enter into the field of geometry? Or is the goal to get from geometry a basic, solid understanding of what geometry is and how you can use it within your life? So what are your goals? And then keeping those in mind, because we often get off track with that. And then the other thing that you said that I think is super, super important, whether kids are in high school or not, I think that that the parent's job as a homeschool parent is always to guide. It's not necessarily to be the teacher who gives them all the information that you want them to have and give it to them the way that you would like to receive it. And that sort of, it's not, because we're not teaching them, we're guiding them, and we're giving them opportunity to receive information on a certain topic in multiple different ways, so that they can actually take the information in, they can do what they do with the information, they can practice using the information, and they can solidify the information. But And then as students, so again, always being a guide, whether they're in elementary or in high school. But again, as students get into high school, to keep that in mind, that your student needs you to guide them all the time, not teach them, but guide them. And that, in fact, as parents, is our job of
Mhm.
teenagers, is to guide them. They are not adults yet, even though they might think they are, and even though they might think they
Mhm.
have it figured out. They're not adults yet, and they're still practicing and they're still learning. And so one thing that I always did with my kids, I have 4 boys. 2 of them are adults and 2 of them are in high school, and they have all had different education experiences. And but what I always did with them was, it's never wasted. If you made a mistake, it's never wasted. It's always an opportunity for you to be able to take whatever that mistake was and learn from it and hopefully do better. And even to this day, my kids will say, like my oldest son will say, I know. I know it's my job as a human being to make mistakes and for me to learn from mistakes. But sometimes I would just like to not have to make a mistake.
Yeah.
He's
I
25,
like that thinking.
and guess
I
what?
have
I
that
would
vision.
also like to
Yeah.
not make a mistake, but that's not really how it works. The best way for
No.
us to learn is to make mistakes. And
Uh-huh.
as parents of homeschoolers, one of the mistakes that we're going to make, and I feel like there's no getting away with it, is sometimes you're going to choose curriculum that ended up not being the best.
Yeah.
But it taught you that you don't want that. And it,
Mhm.
through that,
Know
teaches
what
you
you
what
don't
you would
want.
like instead.
Uh-huh.
So those
Yeah.
are 3 things that I heard what were my takeaways there. Don't be afraid to change ever, mid-year, end of year, multiple
Mhm.
times throughout the year. Always um, be there to be that guide for your
Mhm.
child, no matter what age they are. And I'm going to tell you, once they're out of high school, you don't stop being that guide either.
No.
Just because you now have adult children doesn't mean that they don't come to you. It's not my job, even though it's my literal job in life as my profession to be a
Mhm.
teacher. It's not my job to teach my kids. It's my
Mhm.
job to be there and to guide them and to support them.
Yes. I love it.
Um, and then to always kind of be thinking about, where are you maybe inside a box based on your
Mm.
own conditioning throughout your own educational experience.
Yeah. Yeah, and that awareness part is a big thing, right? And it kind of covers all the, the changing and being stuck with one curriculum, right? It's because we have that mentality, and I've had to work myself out of that mentality too. And here I am, I say I've homeschooled since birth because that's, it was my choice then. I knew I was going to do that. So now my 12 and 15-year old, right? So I have, it's been a progression over those 15 years of me getting more open to what's available. And I still have space. I still have room to grow in that area too. It doesn't, you know,
Absolutely.
I've got this little life motto. I say it a lot, but always be learning. And
Yes.
so our kids, let's instill that in them. Always be learning. What As long as they're learning, I feel, and learning and learning challenging things, right? As long as they're learning, I don't think we can go wrong with their education.
Yeah.
Cover the subjects they need as far as going into adulthood, but as long as they're learning. And it kind of popped into my head when you're saying about don't be afraid to change curriculum.
Yeah.
Sometimes we get stuck in thinking that, oh well, we just got to finish this out, and then at the end of the year
Then
I'll
we can
change to
change.
something new. but
Hmm.
but then really I think the learning is almost like corrupted, because you're trying to learn something, your child is trying to learn something that just is not working for them. And it's overwhelming. It can totally be overwhelming how many options there are. So there's always another option to go to. Some things
Always.
are going to be a challenge, so it's not to shy away from a challenge in learning, But there are signs that say, well, that doesn't work. And now I know that that's not a type of course that works well. And that's probably what I've learned the most over the years. Not so much, oh, what is the perfect course for my boys? I've learned the type of course, and I can now kind of identify that when I just see a description of a course and I look into
Yes.
it, or a certain line of curriculum and I look into it. I'm now trained, right? I've learned that of okay, this is, there's some keywords here that are indicating that this is a type of course that isn't going to work for my learners. And
Yeah.
it's that guidance part. It's the parenting part. I actually say
Yeah.
that, like, education is an extension of parenting. It shouldn't be something we send our kids away to. It's should be something that we guide them with, and
And
be part of that, like be a big part of that.
I 100% agree. I wish I knew more when, when my older kids were little, because they went
Mhm.
through the whole education system, K to 12. And I wish I knew more
Yeah.
when I was little. But I mean, at the same time, what am I supposed to say? I wish I was 30 when I was 20. Well, no,
Yep.
that's not how it works. I can't be all sad about that. Um,
Yeah.
but this landscape education is changing so quickly. Like over these, and it was changing before 2020, before COVID
Mhm.
hit and all that sort of stuff, before the change.
Yep.
It was changing.
Yeah, I
But
agree.
it's changing like, whoa.
Uh-huh.
It is not the same
Yeah.
landscape even yesterday as it is today. And so when you say, like, I tried this and it didn't work, and so I tried something else and it didn't work, and knowing that there's always something else out there for you. Yeah,
Mhm.
especially now, even if you've never
Yes.
heard of it,
Uh-huh.
I can almost guarantee you that it exists, education wise, because there are people out there that are really, really trying to make strides and to really,
Mhm.
really change this landscape.
Yeah.
And the landscape of, you have kids and you get to keep them, until they're sometimes until their kindergarten year. But lots of parents, once they're 1 year old, they're out in daycare, right?
Mhm.
And if you are a parent that was blessed enough to stay home with your kids until they start kindergarten, that's amazing. But the majority of people will then go and put their kids into
Mhm.
traditional public school. And traditional public school was created for a very, very, very different time than we currently live in.
Yeah.
And the curriculum, although has been updated throughout the years, has not been updated to account for the time that we live in today.
Mhm.
So what I would say to anybody who is having children right now, or whose kids are coming up to, starting school age, is to really, really think, what do you want out of school? Because this is in your hands as a parent. You decide. Nobody else decides. And so once you know what you want out of your child's education,
Mhm.
then I would suggest check out your local school or schools that you have in the area and see if that if the schools actually offer the vision you have. The trap that I find that parents get into is their vision is something that reflects their own schooling experience. And
Mhm.
unless they had a poor schooling experience, they probably don't have a lot of, well, I would have liked to have seen this instead. So anyways, getting again to the root of, what do you want out of your schooling experience, and then starting to search out what options are available that offer you that. And often it isn't public school that offers you that. And that's something that I find very, very difficult,
Mm.
especially in the high school years for families. They get scared at the thought of homeschooling. There are lots of families that homeschool K to 8, but
Yeah.
but grade 9 comes and their kids go into high school. And the story that we often hear is that Sorry, I got a dog barking here. The story that we often hear is families are really scared. They're scared that their kids won't be able to get a job when they're adults. If they don't have a university education, then how are their kids going to be able to be okay? And so high school, traditional public school, is the best way that they can see for their kids to be okay. And then the kids that end up not being okay in traditional high school, and we're not even talking about years in the future. Like, we don't know if these kids, because they went through traditional high school, are going to be okay in their adult lives. We don't know that they're okay because they went to traditional high school. So once kids get into traditional high school, if they're not okay right then and there in high school, it now becomes a survival situation. And now families are looking to, what else can I do outside of the box? Homeschool I know exists, but I don't know how to do it. And they start to search out other things. And your kids can get into university with only homeschooling. They don't need to have a GED. They don't need to have written departmentals. They don't need any of that. They can get into university without that. And that's what we see is that's a huge drawback for families of high school students. They're scared. And it's that university, and how is my kid going to be able to make it on their own as an adult? And so what I would say to those, what I do say to those families, I say, this, if you homeschool, even if your kid is in traditional high school, the high school years are an opportunity for you to set your child up for success in their adult life. It's an opportunity for you to help them to figure out what they're interested in, for them to actually find what they're passionate about. Most of us don't know what we're passionate about because we weren't given the opportunity to really explore. We might know some things that we like, but we haven't been able to delve in to even find if we have a passion. And then there are the few who do have a passion and they know what that passion is, and you can't pull them away from the passion. But most of us, we haven't been able to explore that. And those high school years are a time for parents to really be able to give that to their kids, even if they're in traditional school, to help to guide their kids so that when they do get to adulthood, they already have some of these really foundational things set for them that they can build off of. And when the kids have the confidence, when they have that knowing, when they know what they're good at, when they know what they struggle with, when they've got the skills to get better in the areas that they know they need to get better in, when they have time management, when they have all of these things, they also have confidence. And that confidence, that will bring them a really far way in their adulthood. It'll bring them a lot farther than them achieving, straight A's in high school. It's that confidence, that knowing. And you said it earlier, lots of people know what to do, but that's not enough. It's not enough to know what to do. We need to know how to do it. And so this is the opportunity. High school is that opportunity, these crucial teen years.
Yeah. And being able to have that education that is, you mentioned that even in high school, kids in public high school, really as a parent, it's great for us to be able to get them to just realize that purpose, realize what it is that they were created for, right? What they're really meant to do. And you can totally figure that out. Now, good to explore that even longer. It's not like, oh, well, I know I'm good at this and I'm going to be an electrician for the rest of my life, right? It's not about that's part of it. But when we get to educate our kids and create a learning environment that is more, for one thing, doesn't take up, 8 hours of their day or 6. I mean, I know the school day is whatever the 9 to 3:30, but getting there, getting home, any kind of socializing that might go on with that, it ends up that educational experience of a public school takes a lot of time where there's not a lot of learning and there's a lot of wasted time. So, okay, bring that education home. where it belongs, in my opinion. Bring that education home. As a parent, you guide your kids in that education, and now they have much more time for you to focus on that part of their life, on what they're going to do as they go into adulthood, and what they can do as a teenager too. It's not just in adulthood. They can certainly start anything, and then just be able to have the freedom to, I don't know, dabble in stuff. I kind of like that part, especially as my kids are getting older.
Yeah.
Like, now you've got the time. Yeah, okay, you spent, the 2 or 3 hours doing your kind of formal structured learning stuff, and now the rest of the day, go and do this or this or this. I mean, we live in a farm and there's chores to do, so they're more
Yes.
involved in that. And really, if they were going to school, and we're pretty out there, so I know the traveling, they wouldn't be home till 4:30, 5 o'clock, I'm sure. And there wouldn't even be time for that. They wouldn't actually really be involved in our lifestyle, our family lifestyle, as they can be, because now their education happens at home. So
Yes.
now, one of those things, of course, going into is about university. That's not the choice for everybody, but as you mentioned, it's one of those myths, those homeschooling myths, that, oh,
Yeah.
how will my child, and it's warranted. We should be concerned about that as a parent, because we don't want to limit our kids. But there is getting into university, getting into college, doing anything that you want to do does not need a high school diploma. A transcript is good, and you can make that in any way. But you have a link here, and we're going to put that in the comments as well. But I think there was a
Yeah.
slide there with the link. So just
Yeah.
tell us a little bit that what's going to happen at this page. Like, what is this? Obviously, how to get into university. It's Canadian based. Yeah, we've got the CA there, so it's Canadian based.
Yeah. So this is specifically how to get into university in Canada. And it does, at the very beginning, it goes through that there's different areas that you can click on based on what it is that you're looking for. But it does, right there at the very beginning, lets you know that you do not need a high school diploma or a GED in order to get into university. And it takes you through all the things that you would need to do based on, you can go to the different links based on what it is that you're actually looking at. And I do see in the comments, this is my partner, Miss Dawn. She put in the comments that many post-secondary institutions offer courses, and this is another thing that people don't necessarily know. They offer courses to ages 16 plus that high school age students may take advantage of. So Dawn's daughter is extremely interested in learning ASL, American Sign Language, and she's taken classes through UBC while she attends a pre-professional dance program. And so she ended up enjoying it so much that she is considering that as a career. But I highly recommend going to this link, because at this link, it does, there is another link in there, and it's right at the top, that will tell you what course options in university are available for kids that are 16 and over. Again, another misconception that obviously you have to be completely done high school, you have to have the high school diploma, but you don't. So yeah, I would highly recommend to check that out, regardless of if you are a homeschooler or not. It is, I believe, our job as parents to be aware of what kind of the protocols are, what is available, what does this landscape look like for our kids in order to get the skills that they need in order to get paid when they become an adult to do the job that they want to do. And this is a really great link that will help to inform parents as to what it is. And like you say, not everybody is interested in university. I think that as the landscape changes, I think that we will start to see, changes university-wise. I mean, it used to be that lots of people only had a grade 8 education. And then for sure, when I was in high school, it became grade 8 isn't good enough anymore. And now everybody needs a grade 12, not university, but everybody needed a grade 12. And now we are at the point where in order to get a good job, or we've been at the point for quite some time, in order to get a good job, you can't just have high school, you need to have a university degree. So now most people that I know have, I shouldn't say most people that I know. Most people that I know have kids that have attended post-secondary. And so their job they have because they attended post-secondary. But now as we all get post-secondary, well, we've elevated the bar even higher. Do we all need a PhD in order to be qualified to make money and in this world that we live in? So the bar just kind of elevates. But here's the thing. Back in the day, we, the regular people, we didn't have the information. Other people in the professions had the information, and then they gave us that information. Well, we're in the information age now. It's not hard for anybody to find information. You can find information on anything. What is difficult is trying to decipher what information is the right information for you. And so as we navigate these new waters, these new territories with education, we're coming into a space, I believe, where people are going to start learning what it is that they're interested in because they're interested and they can find that information. They don't have to get a degree. And as they learn, they will become professionals. And that's a real thing. If you want to learn something and you want people to recognize that you are an expert in that field, become so good in it that they can't deny that you know what you're talking about. And right? So
where my career happened. I've got no formal training in what I do, but I've been doing marketing for years and years and years, and self-taught, right? So I've just taught by doing. Of course, I take a little, but I've done no formal training, and that can go. So web design, actually, I did that just exclusively for a little while, and it is so easy. I'm actually really, although I'm not closing down an option for university or college or like a formal education for my kids, they definitely see both me and my husband have been self-employed and nothing that we went to school for. So I like that you're making that point, and somebody that has had that university education. And it's not to say that that's not important, but like you said, things change, right? How that's changing with that type of formal education is just evolving because of the access to what we have, especially with the internet and online opportunities.
Absolutely. And so I do see that maybe teachers' roles are going to change if public school continues on for the next 100 years, as it has for this previous 100 years, I could foresee the teacher's role changing in that the teacher becomes more of a guide rather than the teacher. In Montessori, teachers aren't called teachers; they're called directresses or directors, because they're not teaching; they're directing. They're providing the student with different experiences and different materials that the student can then choose. So we give you direction, but we don't tell you exactly what it is that you're going to do. And so I can see that in traditional education maybe changing a little bit, because again, no problem in finding information, but how do we decipher what information is the right information or the best information for us? And different strokes for different folks. So, and again, thank you for proving my point in that you don't have to have a degree or a piece of paper, but if you get really good at something, people will recognize that, and you can enter into a field of this as a job and make money in your adult life. So yeah, if you get really good at something, other people just can't deny that.
So
regardless of the paper.
Yes. We're going to get a link up there for Adventum. And what you've got on your website is, I mean, it's telling about you and what you're doing there, but let us know just a few other resources that parents, I'll just put it parents in general, because you can certainly help the parents that have their kids in school right now as well, from what I'm understanding from our chatting, right?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Mhm. All right, so yeah, just briefly tell us a few things that we're going to find on your site.
So at our site, so you can see the website there, and then we are pretty active on Facebook. So definitely go check out our Facebook page. And people can email me anytime at lisa@myadventum.ca. And you can also message us on Facebook if you were interested in having a free consult or anything like that. And what you'll find on our website, which is continually being built, is you will find the option to book a free consult if you want. And then you'll find the option to purchase lessons. So we do have some lessons on our site, and we are in process of updating a bunch of our lessons. We reformatted our logo and all that sort of stuff, and so we are reformatting our lessons. And so there are currently some lesson options available on the site, and there'll be more lesson options available as we move through into these coming weeks and months, for those people that are looking for formal lessons and that sort of thing. And then if you are interested in having that kind of personalized education plan built for you and your student, then what you can do is start off by booking that free consult with us. And if you want to take it further and you want to have an actual education plan built, then we will determine that in that free consult. So nobody has to pay any money for anything until we've really, really determined what it is that your needs are. And if there's any way that we can help you that doesn't require any money from you, we are going to tell you that. We're going to show you the way the best that we can.
That's great. Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Lisa. This has been a great chat. We have been chatting for just a bit over an hour, and I hardly even believe it's been that much time, but that's what happens when you have a good conversation.
I know, it seems like 5 minutes.
I know. Hopefully you watching have also enjoyed this. This has be able to see these links, and really it's just, I know I can tell that that's Lisa's heart as well, and it's definitely our heart at the Canadian Schoolhouse to just encourage you in any way to really live that educational life with your kids, because it's so much fun. It's challenging, but isn't parenting overall. So it's just that extension of parenting, but it is so rewarding. It is so fun to have that kind of connection with your kids, that you're guiding them in this educational life. So I hope you were blessed with what we talked about today. Feel free to leave comments like on this video. We'll come back and reply to them and check on them. So if you have any questions that me or Lisa can answer, just comment here. We'll be sure to check in with her if she's not watching it herself. We can pass questions on to Lisa as well. So thank you. And thanks again, Lisa, for joining us.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for the opportunity. And thank you to all the listeners on the line.
Great. Bye for now.
Bye.